Tonight, mounting criticism of the deadly cost of an Israeli mission to rescue 4 hostages.
The airstrikes were everywhere.
The surprise raid, Gaza officials say, killed more than 200, and the political upheaval in Israel complicating the push for a ceasefire. What caused a shocking crash between a boat and a float plane?
Then the plane went down, like underwater, very quickly.
The terrifying moment of impact. The Canadian pilot flying tourists to the edge of space.
It is emotional.
From Calgary to suborbit.
You mentioned a pinch me moment. I have one right now.
That conversation in the breakdown.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemannsing.
Israel's brushing aside international criticism tonight of its hostage rescue operation this weekend in Gaza, even after the reported death toll rises. Gaza's health ministry now says Israel's raid killed 274 people, including dozens of children. The images of hospitals and morgues showing waves of wounded and dead. Israel initially said the toll was under 100 people. The country celebrating the return of Noah Argamani, Almog Mayor Jan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv to their families. Sarah Levitt shows the joy and relief in Israel, as well as the horrifying human cost in Gaza, and what it all means for the push for a ceasefire.
For residents of Nuseirat, central Gaza, the scale of destruction from Saturday's raid is overwhelming.
The airstrikes were everywhere. The people were running in fear.
This eyewitness describes the moment the Israel Defense Forces moved in by air and on foot for a hostage rescue mission. She says she saw planes overhead and buildings razed to the ground without warning.
My heart, and even every heart of people here in Gaza, is full of endless sadness, endless sadness.
The cost of Israel's mission to save 4 hostages, highlighted by Gaza's health ministry. It claims 274 Palestinians were killed, another almost 700 injured. Numbers CBC News can't verify, but one of Gaza's few functioning hospitals was inundated with patients. This Palestinian woman says a rocket hit her home, killing her 2 cousins. They did nothing, she says. They were sitting at home. The European Union's head of foreign policy calls the mission a massacre. On X, Joseph Borrell writing, "We condemn this in the strongest terms." Hamas's military wing also claims 3 hostages were killed in the rescue mission, including a U.S. citizen. U.S. officials can't confirm that, but say the solution here lies in a deal.
The only way to get all of the hostages out and to end any more civilian casualties in Gaza is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage agreement.
While in Gaza, some pick up the pieces. Families of those Israeli hostages saved share tearful reunions.
Thank you for bringing my son to me.
And for those 120 hostages still held captive, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is unequivocal.
We'll do whatever it takes to get them all back home. Hamas is committing war crimes every day, including the holding of these hostages.
Sarah, this raid comes as Netanyahu faces intense pressure to reach a ceasefire deal.
And today, Ian, a key member of his war cabinet, Benny Gantz, pulled out of the emergency coalition government. Gantz had issued an ultimatum last month calling on Netanyahu to come up with a plan for the war and its aftermath where he'd quit, and now he's done just that. It won't bring down Netanyahu's government, but it does make the prime minister reliant on far-right members of the coalition who want nothing to do with a ceasefire deal.
Sarah Levitt in Montreal. Support for Israel poured onto Toronto streets today as members and supporters of the Jewish community marched in an annual Walk with Israel event. Thousands attended, including Israelis who lost neighbors and loved ones during the Hamas attacks of October the 7th.
It's moving, and it also gives us a lot of strength to go back home.
I know that we've already won. To see all this support, everybody getting together to show their support of Israel.
The security presence was higher than in previous years, and police confirmed they made 6 arrests, all related to one incident, but they wouldn't say if those arrested were connected to a specific group. A Toronto church more than a century old, designated a National Historic Site, has been destroyed in a fire. There were no reports of injuries, but as Philippe de Montigny explains, what was lost inside can never be recovered.
By the time fire crews arrived, just before 8 a.m., it was already too late for St. Anne's Anglican Church, a 116-year-old building up in flames.
A large portion of the roof has already fallen in, and given the heat, given the age of the building, given the water volume, it is probable that we will have further collapses.
Many residents and churchgoers flocked to the scene where a service was to be held that morning.
I've been coming here for 50 years. It's a shock, total shock. I'm disappointed. I don't know what happened. We'll find out eventually.
I'm hoping that they don't tear it down or whatever. I hope they can rebuild it.
Inside the building were murals painted by renowned artists, including 3 from the Group of 7. The Toronto Fire says, judging from the condition of the building and the extent of the damage, it's highly unlikely anything can be saved inside.
It's a priceless treasure from the point of view of Canadian art.
This historian wrote a book about Toronto's diverse places of worship.
It's a very sad day, very sad.
St. Anne's was one of a kind. In 1923, it commissioned a founding member of the Group of 7 to design and oversee the murals that decorated the church's walls and dome roof. Its Byzantine-style architecture, also unusual for an Anglican church.
It is a huge loss. It is definitely. I mean, because there are very few churches that have that concentration of painters and artists who have contributed to it.
In 1996, it was classified as a National Historic Site of Canada.
Heartbreaking. It's a challenge, but again, I know for a fact, because of our faith, we will rise again and nothing will stop us.
Hours after arriving, fire crews were still putting out the remaining flames and trying to preserve as much of the church facade as they could. What caused the fire is still under investigation. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
2 people are recovering tonight after a shocking float plane crash in Vancouver's downtown harbor. It happened yesterday when the plane collided with a small recreational boat mid-takeoff. As Yvette Brend reports, the accident is raising safety questions as the weather warms up and peak tourism season begins.
When this Harbour Air float plane seemed to speed toward a boat, it caught the attention of a lot of people.
It jumped it almost, and then the plane went down, like underwater, very quickly, which was just terrifying.
Local boaters rushed to help in the 3 minutes before emergency crews arrived. A pilot and 5 passengers on the charter flight escaped the sinking plane. 2 on the boat went to hospital with minor injuries.
It's important that you listen all times on the water, including for aircraft, float planes landing and taking off.
The Vancouver Harbour Master says the boat was in a zone reserved for float plane operations.
I would be very hesitant to blame the pleasure craft in this case, but who knows at this point.
While onus remains unclear, more boats on the water increase the risk.
This is a very rare occurrence, but obviously one that can happen when there's so much traffic out in the bay.
Here at this float plane terminal in Vancouver, at the heart of Vancouver, tourists are coming right from Stanley Park or cruise ships and hopping on some of these tours on float planes. Nobody here has even heard of one hitting a boat before.
Well, this is the first time I've ever heard of an incident like this, and I've been on doing this for 27 years, so.
Harbour Air is the largest seaplane company in British Columbia. In a statement, it says safety is its top priority. For the people waiting to board, it's unsettling.
Shock at first. I thought, wow, I certainly don't expect that to happen, do you?
It was horrifying, yeah. And I've flown Harbour Air a lot, and for years never had a problem and never even heard of anything like this happening. So it's pretty chilling.
But I do wonder why it happened in the first place.
That question now the subject of a Transportation Safety Board investigation. Officials are now working on resurfacing the submerged plane. Yvette Brend, CBC News, Vancouver.
Calgary's mayor is apologizing for a lack of communication about that massive water main break last week that forced residents to cut way back on their water use.
I'm sorry that information has been slow to come and that it's been confusing at times. It's been a stressful situation for everyone involved, and I have heard your concerns.
Removal started on the damaged section of pipe today, and once it's replaced, crews will flush that pipe to ensure the water's safe to drink. The city says it will take a minimum of 5 to 7 days and asks residents to keep limiting their use of water. Changes to the capital gains tax will be introduced tomorrow in the House of Commons.
Tomorrow, we will introduce changes that will result in a small number of well-off Canadians paying a little more in tax when they sell a successful investment.
The details were announced in the April budget, but the new inclusion rate was left out of that legislation. The Liberal government plans to make 2/3 of capital gains taxable. That's up from 50%. That rate will apply to all capital gains for corporations. Individuals will only face the higher rate on gains of more than $250,000. A surprise announcement tonight in France. President Emmanuel Macron has called a snap election to be held in just 3 weeks. This after far-right parties in France and beyond surged in European parliamentary elections. Susan Ormiston is in Brussels tonight.
The first casualty of the EU elections, a weakened French president. Emmanuel Macron's party was trounced by candidates for Marine Le Pen's Nationalist Party.
C'est une situation à laquelle je ne peux me résoudre.
Macron called snap elections, saying he couldn't ignore the message. In France, Italy and Germany, a shift to the right and far right, predicted and feared by some voters.
When you look at the polls, the far right is set to make important gains this time. And yeah, that worries me as an EU citizen.
In Germany, the hard right party AfD celebrated a second-place finish in the country. Young voters turning right and leaving the Green Party.
But it's absolutely clear that especially the young voting results in Germany are devastating.
European Greens lost nearly all the gains they made in the last elections just 5 years ago.
I think the challenges are bigger and the political situation is becoming less stable. It's not a good combination.
Europeans are feeling buffeted by war, by increasing migration, and an inflationary economy. Hundreds of millions voted. Turnout was up over 50%. In villages in the Flemish part of Belgium, many voters supported nationalist parties over an expanded EU.
I feel a little bit neglected by our government in the last 5 years, in a lot of ways.
Bart Spiessens told us he's fed up with the EU's political machine.
Brussels is like a very big money pit where we throw our money in, and it's going down and it's going down, and there's nothing coming out again.
The European bloc faces monumental challenges in the next 5 years. Ursula von der Leyen and the European People's Party did win the majority of votes.
There remains a majority in the center for a strong Europe. And that is crucial for stability. In other words, the center is holding.
But celebrations like these from the right, Sunday night in Paris, puts Europe at a crossroads at a perilous time.
So, Susan, what's next?
Well, those French elections were a surprise. The first vote in 3 weeks, sandwiched in before the Paris Olympics. And you know, this EU vote puts pressure on several leaders. The German Chancellor's party had its worst showing ever. And in Austria, a far-right party was elected first. And they go to national elections in the fall. So as Ursula von der Leyen said tonight, there's turmoil all around.
International climate correspondent Susan Ormiston reporting tonight from Brussels. Still in Europe, Joe Biden wrapped up his visit to France, where he tried to reassure allies that the United States is still a reliable partner. As Katie Simpson tells us, that may be a challenge with the U.S. election 5 months away.
In honoring America's war dead, U.S. President Joe Biden wants to draw a contrast with Donald Trump, visiting the cemetery Trump refused to go to, reportedly saying it was full of losers. In both attitude and policy, Biden argues he's different, vowing the U.S. will remain a leader on the world stage.
The idea that we become semi-isolationists now
which some are talking about, it's not who we are. It's not who America is.
Biden is leaving France, telling allies as long as he's in charge, the U.S. will be a reliable partner. But in an election year, there's only so much weight to his words.
Joe Biden can safely say, if he is reelected, then there will be stability. If the question is asked, well, if President Trump is reelected, can you say that? My answer would be no.
Former President Trump has threatened to abandon traditional alliances, including NATO. As war rages in Ukraine, it's stoking fear and contingency planning among NATO allies. Fear, some argue, is unfounded.
They have to work with whatever American president is elected. And I don't think that it's fair to characterize or caricature President Biden as this paragon of international cooperation and Donald Trump as this sort of brutish isolationist. The sun will rise, the republic will endure no matter who wins.
Biden's trip to France appears to have touched a nerve among some Trump allies who accuse Biden of politicizing American soldiers.
Ask the greatest generation what they feel about wide open borders. Ask the greatest generation what they feel about sex changes for minors. The fact that Joe Biden is covering himself in glory of the very people who fought for something that he's trying to destroy is disgraceful.
Biden will repeat his message of international cooperation at G7 meetings this week and next month at the 75th anniversary of NATO. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
A woman and 2 teen girls are recovering tonight after back-to-back shark attacks in Florida. Both incidents happened on Friday within 90 minutes of each other. One of the teens suffered serious injuries to her hand and leg, the other only surface wounds. The woman, meanwhile, had to have her arm amputated. Authorities patrolled the coastline this weekend, warning other swimmers of the danger. Now to a Go Public investigation. An Ontario mother is fighting for answers tonight, some 2 decades after a needle was left in her spine during childbirth. Rosa Marcatelli shows us her struggle to hold someone accountable.
My pain is here to stay.
Giovanna Ippolito is living with a 4-centimeter-long broken needle in her spine. The doctor responsible failed to tell her or noted in her medical records when it happened during the births of one of her 2 children. Instead, it was discovered during an X-ray more than a decade later. She's told scar tissue makes it too dangerous to remove.
Somebody made a mistake many years ago, but now they need to be accountable for it.
Even walking down the stairs is hard, as Go Public first told viewers almost 4 years ago. Around that time, Ippolito started trying to find out which of the 2 anesthesiologists involved in the births is responsible. Fast forward all these years later, both the hospital and the Ontario College of Physicians and Surgeons have been criticized for botching investigations into her case.
No due diligence. It just infuriates me.
The hospital was criticized by the province's patient ombudsman for unfairness and deficiencies in its patient complaint system. And the college was scolded by the Independent Health Professions Appeal and Review Board for failing to obtain the essential relevant information when it cleared both doctors in the case.
That includes neglecting to figure out what kind of needle it was, an epidural or a spinal, key information that may have identified the doctor responsible. Instead, they told Ippolito there's nothing they can do because the medical error wasn't noted in her records.
There's a real power imbalance in the sense of all the information about what happens to a patient is in the hands of potential defendants or in the hands of the medical professionals.
In March, that review board ordered the college to redo the investigations.
I do not want it to happen to anybody else, so I continue to fight.
So Ippolito waits again for the results of yet another investigation. Meanwhile, both the hospital and the college didn't answer Go Public's questions about Ippolito's complaints, citing privacy. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
Our Go Public stories come from you. If you have an idea you'd like to share, send it to gopublic@cbc.ca. The Edmonton Oilers may have lost Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final, but they're winning more fans than ever.
Let's go Oilers! Let's go Oilers! We want the cup!
But for some fans, the rivalry runs too deep.
Calgary Flames fans that live and breathe with the team shouldn't be cheering for the Oilers.
Love is like a paradise.
A new study shines a spotlight on who gets played on the radio.
Women for the last 10 years have still been sort of underrepresented in those spaces.
And an Alberta man wins big with a shocking bid.
Off by a stop.
We're back in 2.
It's a hat trick of wins from Max Verstappen in Montreal.
Max Verstappen winning yet again at the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. The 26-year-old has won the race 3 years in a row and extended his lead for the season title. Canadian Lance Stroll was 7th.
Here is a break. Nugent Hopkins in and another spectacular stop. Bobrovsky on fire early.
And he stayed hot. Sergei Bobrovsky, the star of Game 1 of the final. The Panthers shutting out the Oilers 3-0. Bobrovsky made 32 saves in Florida's win. This marks the first time in 13 years a goalie got a shutout in the opening game of the Cup final. A Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup since Montreal did it back in 1993, but that doesn't mean the whole country is embracing the Oilers during this playoff run. As Aaron Collins shows us, it's a tough sell for some Southern Albertans.
Chuck and Bear, and they're trading them.
In the rough and tumble Battle of Alberta, memories are long, especially in the playoffs. Heartbreak at the hands of an arch rival, impossible to forget.
Captain Connor McDavid.
But with an Alberta team in the finals, can they be forgiven, even temporarily? The pros not the only ones still playing. On the ice in Calgary, Edmonton's success firing up Flames fans too.
I've never bought into the fact that you got to bring the Cup to Canada. It's a rivalry. You just can't cheer for them, right? We got to support our Southern Alberta brethren and cheer against them.
Up the road in the capital, a happier vibe.
Let's go Oilers! Let's go Oilers! We want the Cup!
And a respect for the provincial rivalry.
I don't think the Calgary fans will support Edmonton. That's just the way it goes.
Not surprising, according to this balanced expert. He says for true fans, their team and its rivals are part of their identity.
Calgary Flames fans that live and breathe with the team shouldn't be cheering for the Oilers. They should be cheering against them.
Nearly 5,000 kilometers away, sparks from that Alberta rivalry still fly. This current Oiler, a former Flame, hopes both teams' fans cheer him on.
Well, we're obviously the last team left from Canada, so I think they got to cheer for us.
Well, back in Flames country, there isn't much to cheer for these days. For some, reason enough to root for that other team.
Alberta would be a special gift for them. So yeah, I'm an Oilers fan for this period only.
A chance to keep cheering, enough to call a temporary truce in the Battle of Alberta. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
If you watch hockey, you know there are a lot of stats, but for a casual viewer, those numbers can sound like a new language. Plus, minus, ozone possession, shots from the slot. So we have some other numbers about the Stanley Cup final that you don't need to be a diehard fan to understand. 4,820. That's the number of kilometers between Edmonton and where the Panthers play their home games, just outside Miami. The greatest distance ever between two Stanley Cup finalists. So, long flights, 3 time zones, but an extra day in the schedule for each time the teams move from city to city. '31st. That was the Edmonton Oilers ranked in the 32-team NHL after they lost 10 of their first 13 games in the regular season, second to last place. But keep this in mind, back in 2019, the St. Louis Blues were in last place as late as January, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. 27. That's the number of Canadians who have skated for the Panthers and the Oilers so far in these playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers have 18 Canadians on their playoff roster, including 5 of their 6 top scorers. Another reason, perhaps, to consider them Canada's team.
Every hockey kid has been right here in a stream.
5, that's the number of Stanley Cups won by the Edmonton Oilers franchise, though the last one was 34 years ago in 1990. And of course, no Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup since the Habs did it back in 1993. 5 is also the number of consecutive years that a team from the state of Florida has been in the Stanley Cup final. Tampa winning the Cup in 2020 and 21, and Florida losing last year against Las Vegas. 2, that's the number of games that Florida and Edmonton played against each other in the regular season. The Panthers won both of those, 5-3 and 5-1, though the most recent game was way back in December. Of course, there was another win by Florida last night, Game 1. Game 2 between the Oilers and the Panthers is tomorrow night in Florida. As more tourists head to the edge of space, a Canadian is helping get them there. I speak with the fighter pilot who dreamed his way to new heights.
There's a way, right? If you can see it, you can be it. And I hope that I represent that for a lot of young people in Canada.
And 4 decades after a deadly siege, the painful memories remain, and so do the fears.
To not let it happen again, because we are still a minority.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. At his moment, Carlos Alcaraz won his first French Open title. The 21-year-old Spaniard rallied from a set down to beat his German opponent 6-2 in the 5th and final set. He's the youngest player to win a championship on 3 different surfaces, clay, grass, and hard court, after victories at the US Open and Wimbledon. A new study has found a gap in representation on Canadian radio. For more than a decade, songs by men have received far more airplay than women. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson explains why.
Can I be that one thing, can I?
Singer Katie Tupper came from Saskatchewan to Canadian Music Week in Toronto, an important annual showcase for new artists. But she's also hoping to grow her fan base the old-fashioned way, by getting some radio play.
I think as a developing artist, that's like a big chunk of what your income is until you recoup on streams, until your shows are selling out and all that.
Your love is like a paradise.
But entering that radio rotation in Canada may be tricky for female musicians, according to a new study. It looked at 150 most played songs on Canadian radio stations between 2013 and 2023, and found that women got a fraction of the play men got in all genre.
We see that country, alternative rock, and active rock play more songs by men than those by women. And then on the other hand, we see top 40 radio, mainstream AC, and hot AC. And while much more diverse there, women for the last 10 years have still been sort of underrepresented in those spaces.
16 carriages. And that's despite the omnipresence of female superstars like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and Adele. Experts say it's an industry-wide problem. Record labels have to choose to invest in women, signing them and then promoting them to the radio stations. There's also the matter of the disappearing middle-class musician, those who are not multimillionaires but are working and have some fan following.
You know, it's not only incredibly expensive to live, but if you're somebody who works in a precarious field like music, those effects are felt differently and more powerfully for somebody who is also experiencing marginalization based on gender, race, and class.
But young artists like Katie Tupper are working hard to break that glass ceiling, hoping to make music radio a place where all kinds of listeners can hear all kinds of voices. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now we go deeper into the stories shaping our world. India's Sikh population still on edge 40 years after the deadly attack on a temple by armed forces.
Because Sikhs are still a minority in this country and you never know.
But first,
We have takeoff.
as this commercial flight shot towards the heavens this weekend, carrying tourists into suborbital space, a Canadian was in the cockpit.
Well, you mentioned a pinch me moment. I have one right now with this beautiful spaceflight system, the mothership and the spaceship.
I connected with Jameel Janjua to talk about his journey from boy cadet to to Canadian fighter pilot.
I mean, I was living out my dreams.
And how he hopes to inspire young Canadians. Jameel Janjua also explained why he thinks these missions are more than just pastimes for the rich. He was in New Mexico at Virgin Galactic's commercial spaceport. Jameel Janjua, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ian. Nice to chat with you.
I know you've loved aviation for a long time. So take us back to when you were a kid in Calgary, going to the air show near Red Deer. What was that experience like?
So my father used to take my brother and I to air shows at the old Penhold, Canadian Forces Base Penhold, to the Red Deer International Air Show. And this would have been in the late 80s. And I remember seeing F-18s fly past at 200 feet and 500 knots and the snowbirds fly. And it was just captivating. It was something I had to do.
And then you join the Air Cadets, and then you become an officer in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And then you're at the controls of a CF-18. That's a pretty rare group of people in Canada who are fighter pilots. Tell us about that experience.
It was fascinating. It was a season of my life that I look back on with tremendous fondness. I mean, I was living out my dreams, and I was surrounded by phenomenal people and officers and the men and women who service those aircraft in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And we had a mission to serve Canadians at home and abroad. And it was just a tremendous delight to be able to go to work and do that every day and fly a fighter jet in defense of Canada.
On the academic side, a pretty impressive resume, Royal Military College, MIT, you became an engineer. On the aviation side, equally, if not more impressive. And at one point, you're at Edwards Air Force Base in the United States flying jets. I mean, a storied Air Force base. And what was it like to be on the runway there?
Edwards Air Force Base is fantastic. And so if you're an airplane buff like me, it holds a special place in history. And it was stuff that I read about in books when I was a child. I mean, I read about Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier out there at Edwards, and pilots and test pilots like Neil Armstrong and Scott Crossfield and Joe Walker, Pete Knight flying the X-15, a winged rocket plane that went to space and back. And when I was at Edwards as the Canadian exchange officer to the United States Air Force flying F-16s and F-15s, I'd sit at the end of the runway waiting for my takeoff time on any particular mission, and you'd be able to see the entire inventory in the U.S. Air Force's arsenal taxi by you one by one, from long-range strategic stealth bombers to every fighter jet you could imagine, and then some. And it was really just getting to look through a photo storybook of aviation present in real life. So it was really quite something.
And what about that? Did you think back to that kid that went to the air show near Red Deer and imagine where you were at that moment? It must have been, as people describe it, one of those pinch me moments.
Yeah, I do look back to that child out in Red Deer, and I don't think they would have believed that they'd be sitting in the cockpit of that F-16 Viper, getting to see an air show right in front of their eyes on their own time.
So how do you get from there, which is already a pretty impressive place, to where you are now and, getting into the cockpit of that spacecraft behind you?
Yeah, I think that's another, you mentioned a pinch me moment. I have one right now as I look behind me with this beautiful spaceflight system, the mothership and the spaceship. I was an experimental test pilot. I had many years of experience doing that. And it was in 2020, and Virgin Galactic put an application out for new test pilots, and I applied with gusto.
Is there anything about the many different aircraft that you've flown up to this point and this spacecraft behind you? Are there any analogies there? Anything that taught you how to be at the controls of the spacecraft?
Yeah, so there's a reason that we hire trained test pilots. All of our test pilot cadre, the men and women that I work with in that particular cohort, they're phenomenal mentors, and they have tremendous experience, and they've flown everything from U-2 spy planes to heavy transport aircraft to supersonic fighter jets like I flew. There are various parts of each of those mission sets that apply to these two vehicles behind me. We use our really high fidelity simulator, which is close by here in the hangar at Spaceport America in New Mexico, to train to fly the spaceship. And one thing that I'm always struck by is I've spent a lot of hours, as you can imagine, in the spaceship simulator over the last many months and years, was it actually glides a lot like an F-16. So on the reentry back to the landing at Spaceport America, feels a reasonable amount like an F-16 on our simulated flame-out approaches that we would do at Edwards Air Force Base.
It sounds incredibly exciting. It sounds daunting. And for me as a layperson, it sounds a little bit intimidating. As we do this interview a few days before the mission, are you nervous?
I think I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit. I do think that my line of work has acclimatized me to not be nervous and to focus on training and the fundamentals and the building block approach that we take here at Virgin Galactic as well. And we focus on safety and the mission and the people that we're going to take to space and expose to that new, brave environment. And I think that we settle those by practice. So if I get nervous, I hit the simulator with the commander of the spaceship that I'll be flying with, Nicola Pachile, who's a good friend of mine and a fantastic mentor. And that's how he and I calm our nerves. We hit the simulator for a couple of hours a day, and that does us just fine.
We are in this new era of space travel led by billionaires. Passengers are often, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they're kind of super rich people, or rich people anyway. What do you say to critics who might dismiss all of this as a plaything for the rich?
Yeah, I think it's really good to look at our manifests of who we are flying these days. And if you look at this particular flight, and it's been publicized, Tuva Tasaver is the second Turkish person ever in the history of that country to go to space, and he'll be flying with us in VSS Unity, which is behind me. Tuva is an engineer, and I spoke with him. I had dinner with him recently, and he was explaining to me how Turkey's a country of 87 million people, and two of them, well, he will be the second. Only one of them has ever been to space. And when that other Turkish astronaut was at the space station earlier this year, Tuva toured his country, and he said to me, he said, Jameel, I get to express to a country that is predominantly young, with the youngest demographic in Europe, I get to express to them something that they thought was distant and untouchable to them, something that only happened in America, people going to space. And he said, I explained to them from somebody who looks like them, from somebody who grew up where they grew up, in their own language, I explained to them what the benefits are of human space exploration. And I think Tuva's a fantastic example of those diverse voices that we are giving by these commercial space endeavors and human space exploration. And when you look at some of the other passengers that have flown with us, we've flown a mother-daughter duo from Antigua and Barbados. Nobody from there has ever flown to space, and we flew them to space in 2023. And so I think that those people and folks like me who are, with my colleagues here at Virgin Galactic, we're at the coalface. We're the picks and shovels of commercial space exploration, and we're normal people who are really proud to be able to offer this to other people.
You're wearing a Canadian patch on your sleeve. And I just wonder, for the Canadians watching this, what message do you have for them?
I think the message would be to kids who grew up like I grew up. I was the son of immigrants to Canada, and my family was given so much opportunity in this country, and we're grateful for that. I'd offer to those kids that there's a way, right? If you can see it, you can be it. And I hope that I represent that for a lot of young people in Canada.
You sound a little bit emotional.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to be, right? When you look at these machines and what they represent, and they represent people, like a really united people and company that are behind them. And yeah, it is emotional.
Jameel, you're an impressive person and about to go on an impressive mission. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thanks, Ian. It was lovely to chat with you.
And Jameel texted me after the flight saying it was, in his words, amazing. The views are simply spectacular, he wrote. I'm left longing to go back. Next, India's Sikh community marks 40 years since a deadly raid.
Indian state attacked a pilgrimage temple.
Why some worry history could repeat itself. Why Sikhs in India say they still don't trust the government 40 years after a deadly raid on the Golden Temple.
With tanks, with army, with commandos.
Decades haven't eased their fears.
To not let it happen again, because we are still a minority.
Our South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji breaks down the religious divide that persists 4 decades later.
The pain is still raw 40 years later in the holiest place for Sikhs, the inner shrine of the Golden Temple. the very spot Indian armed forces stormed in 1984. It was a bloody siege, the Indian military intent on flushing out a group of armed Sikh separatists barricaded inside, demanding an independent homeland. Hundreds were killed, 400 officially, although Sikh groups believe the death toll was much higher. The damage to the holy site devastating for the faithful. 4 decades later, the shrine is repaired, but the emotional scars remain deep.
You're here? This is my
Satpal Dinesh, a photographer now in his 70s, was there, documenting the army operation and its violent aftermath. At first, it was hard to grasp how many Indian officers were poised to strike. Until, Dinesh says, they advanced on the temple. I realized then this was a war. One that brought nothing but heartache to Beyant Singh and his family. Faded photos are all that he has left of his brother, shot and killed inside the temple, leaving 3 young boys fatherless. We never even saw his body or got his belongings back, Singh says. I can't ever forgive that insult from government officials.
The order to attack the Holy Temple came from India's then Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi. And even 40 years later, many of those gathered here say they'll never forget that or forgive India's government.
Which we have right now.
Even for those born years after the army mission, Operation Blue Star stings as a brutal assault against their religion.
The Indian state attacked a pilgrimage temple.
On that day, the government has attacked with tanks, with army, with commandos, full to kill Sikhs.
Indira Gandhi is the focus of much of their anger, and she paid a heavy price for ordering Indian forces to charge the temple. Months later, she was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguards in retaliation. That, in turn, sparked anti-Sikh riots across the country. For some here, there's grievance and a sense that similar discrimination against Sikhs continues under India's present government. This group of separatists renewing the calls for an independent Khalistan state feels as much. Many here point to how the Indian government under Narendra Modi at times resorts to using the word Khalistani to target those opposing their policies.
No, there is not much difference between the government of Indira Gandhi and the current government.
This student says some politicians in India freely promote a Hindu-centric state.
But if the Sikhs ask for the Khalistan, they are sent to the jails. They are sent away from their homes.
Take Amritpal Singh, he says, a self-styled preacher and hardline Khalistan activist who ran in the recent general election from jail and won. Another newly elected MP, the son of one of the bodyguards who assassinated Indira Gandhi, fueling a perception that Khalistan sentiment could be on the rise. But for others at the temple, the anniversary of Operation Blue Star is not about politics. It's about educating future generations.
To not let it happen again, because we are still a minority. So if we are not together as a community, then they can be lost in this nation.
Nothing more important, she says, in an India where the ruling party has shown little regard for the concerns of the country's minorities.
The anti-Sikh violence that followed Indira Gandhi's assassination was the catalyst for many Sikhs to come to Canada. This 40th anniversary has renewed calls here to have Canada label that violence a genocide. The government hasn't done so. Coming up, a near-perfect bid.
That was the best showcase bid in the history of the show.
How an Alberta man made Price is Right history in our moment. That is Alberta's Patrice Massa in disbelief after finding out he won big on The Price is Right with an almost perfect bid. On the game show's final showcase showdown, his guess was $1 off the actual price. That meant that he won both his prize and the other contestants. Tonight, that bid makes our moment.
$39,501.
It's surreal.
Off by a dollar.
First, I thought I blew it. And that's why you hear me say no. So for me, in my head, I blew it.
$83,068.
You're trying to calculate everything. You're like, okay, well, how much is that coffee maker? And then, okay, the car is so difficult.
You bid $39,500.
But then when he paused, I'm like, and then I said no again. Now I'm like, did I just win balls?
So let me tell you,
it's so much pressure. It's so fast that you don't really have time to understand what just happened.
One.
A total shock. And I think what shocked me the most in the whole thing is the dollar. We're really looking forward to the trips, the designer clothes. I mean, we'll never have the opportunity to get any of that. Just for the sake of saying I have a Versace bathing suit, not that it means anything to me. To be honest, pure luck. Absolutely sheer pure luck.
That was the best showcase bid in the history of the show, in my opinion. Thanks for watching.
I mean, the best part of that is the visible joy and disbelief. By the way, he had no plans to go to the show. They were there the day before, found out about the taping, got tickets, and the rest is Price is Right history. Thanks for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the Nationals YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannah-Mansing in Vancouver. See you tomorrow night.